think stuff to do with family overwhelms me quite a bit. You know, worry or stress around family side of things, that does overwhelm me quite a bit.
Royal protection officers stepped up to a dark-tinted Range Rover parked outside the private security gates of Highgrove House, just as the afternoon rain began to fall. The vehicle belonged to Tom Parker Bowles, the Queen's son, who had arrived unannounced, demanding immediate access to the residential perimeter. With a sharp nod from the commanding officer, two guards flanked the driver's side door and pulled the handle. What they discovered hidden inside the back storage compartment triggered an immediate red alert across the estate, leaving Prince William absolutely furious as the true scale of the insider breach came to light. The unauthorized gate breach. Tom Parker Bowles sat behind the steering wheel of a dark green Range Rover as the vehicle rolled slowly up the wet gravel incline toward the main security gates of Highgrove House. He wore a heavy navy blue overcoat over a dark gray sweater. His hands gripped the leather steering wheel tightly. Two armed protection officers stepped out from the heated guard booth into the misty morning air. They raised their hands, signaling the vehicle to stop 3 yards away from the steel security barrier. The facts are that security protocols governing access to royal country residences during an active administrative lockdown require mandatory vehicle inspections for all visitors, regardless of family affiliation. When an executive restriction order is in effect, no exceptions are granted for extended family members or personal guests. This strict enforcement policy ensures that unauthorized personnel cannot bypass perimeter controls or smuggle restricted items onto estate grounds. Tension filled the damp morning air as the lead guard walked toward the driver's side window and tapped twice on the glass with a gloved hand. Tom rolled the window down 4 inches and told the officer that he needed immediate access to the main residential wing to retrieve personal belongings left behind during the initial evacuation. The guard replied calmly that all entry permissions had been suspended under direct orders from the Sovereign's Protection Command. The facts were that the lockdown order issued 48 hours prior explicitly revoked every standing access pass held by non-resident family members and external contractors. The restriction applied uniformly across the entire property perimeter, giving frontline security officers full legal backing to turn away anyone attempting to breach the checkpoint without a newly verified royal clearance code. The mystery was why Tom's mobile phone continued to ring continuously with unlisted calls from a central London landline while he argued with the guard at the gate. The mystery resolved when the guard noticed a glowing satellite phone screen resting in the passenger seat cup holder. The device was displaying an active data connection linked to a secure server network operated outside normal civilian telecommunication channels. The presence of the unmonitored communication device violated the estate's strict electronic quarantine rules. The facts were that any unauthorized communication device brought within the Highgrove security zone posed an immediate risk to the ongoing forensic investigation. Security protocols dictated that all external electronics must be surrendered at the perimeter before any vehicle could be granted temporary staging clearance. A new mystery opened as a second protection officer noticed a heavy iron padlock resting on the back floor mat behind the driver's seat. Which external storage shed on the estate grounds did the heavy padlock secure, and who authorized its placement near the secondary service road? The lead guard placed his hand on his holster and instructed Tom to turn off the engine immediately and step out of the vehicle for a full physical inspection. The unauthorized gate breach had triggered an immediate security escalation, transforming a routine visitor stop into a high-stakes confrontation at the edge of the royal estate. The Range Rover searched too. Protection officers in dark tactical vests stepped up to the open rear hatch of the green Range Rover. The lead officer pulled out a pair of white cotton forensic gloves from his pocket and slipped them onto his hands. He reached into the back storage bay and lifted the dark camouflage cargo blanket away from the wooden crates. The morning light caught the steel strapping bands holding the containers shut. He tapped the side of the top crate with his knuckles, listening to the solid echo of dense timber. The facts are that mandatory vehicle searches conducted under emergency royal decrees require systematic documentation of every compartment and cargo space. When restricted transport is intercepted at a perimeter checkpoint, security personnel must record serial numbers, check seals, and verify contents against active asset recovery manifests. This thorough inspection process prevents any tampering with physical evidence before forensic investigators arrive at the scene. Tension filled the wet gravel driveway as the officer produced a pair of heavy wire cutters from his utility belt. He positioned the jaws of the cutters around the steel band, securing the top crate, and squeezed the handles together. The metal snapped with a sharp, loud ping that echoed against the brick walls of the security lodge. He lifted the wooden slats off the top of the container, revealing layers of thick white packing wool inside. He parted the wool with his fingers to expose a polished silver surface beneath. The facts were that the item resting inside the packing wool was an antique silver chalice bearing the official hallmark of King Charles II. The catalog number stamped on the base matched an entry on the missing inventory ledger compiled by Windsor Castle curators 3 weeks prior. Its presence inside the vehicle confirmed that valuable royal heirlooms were actively being moved across estate boundaries without authorization. The mystery was how the heavy wooden crate managed to clear the interior loading dock of Clarence House without triggering the automated weight sensors installed beneath the flooring. The mystery resolved when an inspecting officer checked the bottom of the wooden crate and found a custom lead weight bolted to the baseboards. The extra weight tricked the electronic floor sensors into reading a standard load of household linens rather than dense metal artifacts. The facts were that the custom lead ballast was engineered specifically to bypass automated inventory tracking systems during loading operations. The use of such specialized equipment demonstrated advanced planning and technical coordination by individuals inside the administrative household. A new mystery opened as the officer pulled a small folded receipt from beneath the lead weight. Which London-based shipping broker issued the transit receipt, and what address was listed as the final destination for the crate? The officer placed the silver chalice back into its packing wool and signaled his partner to secure the remaining containers. The physical inspection of the Range Rover had uncovered undeniable proof of an ongoing asset diversion scheme operating directly through extended family channels. Every piece of evidence brought the security team closer to uncovering the full scope of the conspiracy. Raindrops continued to fall steadily against the metal roof of the vehicle as the two officers moved on to inspect the second and third wooden crates stacked in the rear storage bay. The lead officer knelt down on the wet asphalt, pulling a heavy-duty flashlight from his tactical belt to examine the side panels of the middle container. He ran his gloved fingers along the seams, checking for hidden compartments or secondary latch mechanisms welded into the timber frame. The facts are that industrial-grade concealment units used in illicit transport operations often feature multiple layers of structural insulation designed to mask internal metallic contents from handheld metal detectors. When security teams encounter such specialized packing materials during a roadside stop, they must dismantle the exterior casing with extreme care to preserve any latent fingerprints or forensic traces left by the handlers. Tension escalated in the courtyard as Tom Parker Bowles watched the inspection from the doorway of the security lodge, flanked by 2 armed guards. He shifted his weight from one foot to the other and told the supervising inspector that the crates contained only family heirlooms intended for temporary storage during ongoing property renovations. The inspector did not look up from his work, replying simply that all property movements required verified ministerial permits issued through the Lord Chamberlain's office. The facts were that no renovation permits had been filed or approved for any residential wing at Highgrove House over the previous 6 months. The administrative office had no record of any authorized family storage transfers scheduled for that week, directly contradicting the explanation given by the driver at the gate. The mystery was why the shipping labels pasted to the side of the second crate bore a fictional corporate entity name registered in the Cayman Islands. The mystery resolved when an officer used a pocket knife to peel back the top layer of the shipping label, revealing a secondary barcode underneath. Scanning the barcode with a handheld digital reader brought up an active inventory file linked to a private storage facility located near Heathrow Airport. The facts were that the Heathrow facility served as a primary staging ground for export-bound antiquities before they were loaded onto commercial cargo flights heading overseas. The discovery confirmed that the items inside the Range Rover were moments away from leaving the country permanently. A new mystery opened as the digital reader displayed the name of the freight forwarding agent who signed off on the Heathrow storage transfer. Which senior logistics manager at the airport cargo terminal authorized the release of the uninspected crates, and what financial accounts received the transfer payments? The inspector stood up from the pavement and turned toward the security lodge where Tom stood under the overhang. The physical evidence recovered from the back of the Range Rover had shattered any remaining illusion of innocent oversight. The investigation had moved from a quiet administrative audit into a direct confrontation with active smuggling operations, setting the stage for an explosive escalation as Prince William prepared to arrive at the scene. Discovery of the hidden heirlooms. 2 protection officers in dark tactical vests knelt beside the open cargo hatch of the green Range Rover. The lead officer pulled a pair of thin surgical gloves from his utility pocket and slipped them onto his hands. He reached into the dark interior of the second wooden crate and pulled back a layer of molded packing foam. The morning sunlight caught the gleaming surface of an antique silver tea service resting securely inside the custom compartment. He lifted a small cream jug from the set and examined the hallmark stamped on the bottom. The facts are that historical estate inventories catalog every single piece of royal silverware with unique numerical stamps and maker's marks. When items are discovered outside designated palace display rooms without official transfer paperwork, investigators cross-reference those marks against master archival logs maintained by the Lord Chamberlain's office. This verification process establishes the exact provenance of each artifact and confirms whether it belongs to the sovereign collection or private estates. Tension filled the wet gravel courtyard as the supervising inspector walked over from the security lodge and looked down into the open crate. He pulled a small digital tablet from his coat pocket and checked the catalog numbers against the missing asset database synced with Windsor Castle. He told the officers that the silver tea service matched 20 items reported stolen from the Clarence House private dining inventory 4 months prior. Tom Parker Bowles watched from beneath the lodge awning, remaining silent as the inventory match was confirmed aloud. The facts were that the missing dining collection was part of a larger batch of 19th century porcelain and silver heirlooms, written off as misplaced during previous structural renovations. The recovery of these items inside a private vehicle proved that the renovation narrative was a deliberate fabrication designed to cover up systematic asset theft by individuals with unrestricted access to the residential quarters. The mystery was how the heavy wooden crate managed to bypass the automated security scanner located at the estate's service exit without alerting the duty monitoring officer. The mystery resolved when an inspecting officer discovered a small electromagnetic shielding pouch taped to the underside of the crate's wooden base. The pouch contained a specialized signal blocking fabric that neutralized the radio frequency identification tag, rendering the container invisible to the automated gate scanners as the vehicle passed through. The facts were that signal blocking technology of that grade is restricted to specialized transport security operations and is not available through commercial retail channels. Its presence indicated that someone with technical security expertise had assisted in preparing the illicit cargo for transport off the estate grounds. A new mystery opened as the officer retrieved a small brass key from inside the shielding pouch. Which locked storage locker at the Heathrow freight terminal did the brass key open? And who held the master register for that specific unit? The inspector placed the silver cream jug back into its foam slot and closed the wooden lid. The discovery of the hidden heirlooms inside the Range Rover had transformed a tense gate confrontation into an undeniable criminal case. Every item pulled from the vehicle's storage bay brought investigators closer to uncovering the individuals orchestrating the massive asset diversion scheme from within the heart of the royal household. Rain began to fall harder across the Gloucestershire countryside, slicking the tarmac and drumming a steady beat against the roof of the security lodge. The protection officers moved systematically through the remaining cargo boxes, lifting packing materials and logging serial numbers into their digital handheld units. Each recovered artifact was photographed from multiple angles before being wrapped in protective sheeting and transferred to a secure transport van idling behind the guard booth. The facts are that forensic chain of custody rules require immediate photographic documentation and secure transport for all recovered Crown property. When stolen items are seized during an active investigation, they must be transferred under armed escort directly to a controlled archival facility to prevent any possibility of contamination or loss. This strict protocol ensures that all physical evidence remains legally admissible in future judicial proceedings. Tension remained thick in the air as the third and final crate was pulled halfway out of the vehicle's rear storage bay. The lead officer unlatched the brass clasps on the front panel and swung the wooden door open. Inside rested a collection of gold-plated dessert flatware bearing the personal cipher of Queen Victoria. The pieces were packed tightly into custom velvet slots designed to prevent shifting during transit over rough country roads. The facts were that Victorian-era gold flatware collections are kept under maximum security vault conditions at Buckingham Palace and are only displayed during state banquets or official diplomatic receptions. Their removal from central London storage required collusion at the highest administrative levels of the royal household management team. The mystery was why the inventory tag attached to the velvet tray listed a destination address in Zurich, rather than any approved domestic conservation laboratory. The mystery resolved when an investigator checked the shipping code on the tag against an international freight database, revealing that the box was scheduled for immediate air freight dispatch to a private Swiss antiquities dealer. The dealer had been flagged by European financial intelligence units 3 weeks earlier for handling suspicious art shipments originating from British estates. The facts were that international art trafficking networks rely on private Swiss brokers to obscure the true ownership of high-value cultural artifacts before reselling them to anonymous private collectors. The interception of the gold flatware at the Highgrove Gate interrupted the final leg of an international smuggling route that had operated undetected for years. A new mystery opened as the investigator found a handwritten business card tucked behind the velvet tray, bearing the name of a prominent London art consultant. Which high-ranking member of the royal household introduced the art consultant to Camilla's administrative staff, and what commission percentage was agreed upon for the overseas sales? The inspector secured the final crate and locked the heavy metal doors of the transport van. The evidence recovered from the Range Rover had exposed the full mechanical reality of the theft operation. Prince William's arrival at the security gate moments later would signal the final reckoning for everyone involved in the conspiracy. William's immediate arrival and confrontation. A black armored Land Rover turned sharply off the main country lane and sped through the open security gates of Highgrove House. The vehicle came to a sudden stop on the wet gravel just 5 feet behind Tom Parker Bowles's green SUV. The rear door swung open instantly. Prince William stepped out onto the rain-slicked stones. He wore a dark charcoal overcoat and a light blue shirt with an open collar. His face was entirely expressionless as he walked past the armed guards straight toward the open rear hatch of the Range Rover. The facts are that senior working royals possess direct constitutional authority to inspect ongoing security operations at any crown property during an active state investigation. When illicit assets or contraband are discovered by protection units, the heir to the throne can intervene personally to oversee the immediate seizure of evidence. This direct executive oversight prevents local procedural delays and ensures that critical artifact recoveries are documented under the highest level of royal authority. Tension filled the damp courtyard as William stopped 2 paces away from the open cargo hatch, looking down at the wooden crates filled with stolen silver and gold flatware. Tom Parker Bowles stepped forward from the security lodge awning, starting to speak in a low voice and gesturing toward the vehicle. William raised his left hand, cutting him off mid-sentence without looking up. William told him that the game was entirely over, and that every piece of stolen property in the back of the car was already logged into the Royal Forensic Database. The facts were that the evidence recovered from the vehicle matched 4 separate inventory reports filed by Windsor Castle and Clarence House curators over the past 3 years. The direct physical link between extended family transport vehicles and stolen historical regalia eliminated any remaining doubt regarding internal complicity in the smuggling operation. The mystery was why Tom chose to attempt the transport run during daylight hours when local police patrols along the estate perimeter were operating on double-shift schedules. The mystery resolved when an inspecting officer handed William a small internal routing slip recovered from the glove box. The slip showed that the transport was scheduled to coincide with a planned shift change for the main gate security detail, buying a 10-minute window of unmonitored exit time. The facts were that the shift change schedule was an internal administrative document accessible only to senior management personnel working within the household offices. The timing proved that someone with high-level scheduling access had coordinated the escape window specifically for the Range Rover. A new mystery opened as William pointed to a signature block at the bottom of the routing slip, which senior household administrator signed off on the security shift adjustment, and what direct financial ties connected their private bank accounts to the Zurich art dealer. William turned away from the crates and looked directly at Tom under the gray Gloucestershire sky. The confrontation at the gate had stripped away the last layers of deception surrounding the royal artifact scandal. The evidence was secured, the vehicle was impounded, and the institutional cleanup was moving forward with relentless, unyielding speed. The rain fell harder now, driving a sheet of cold water across the open asphalt courtyard and drumming a heavy, relentless rhythm against the metal roofs of the parked vehicles. 2 additional protection officers walked over from the main security lodge carrying heavy metal clamps used to secure vehicle wheels during criminal impoundments. They knelt down beside the front tires of the green Range Rover and locked the steel boots into place with a sharp metallic snap. William stood motionless beside them, watching the procedure with a cold, steady gaze that left no room for argument or negotiation. The facts are that standard asset impoundment procedures require immediate immobilization of any vehicle used in the transport of stolen crown property. When a vehicle is officially seized under royal protection warrants, it is towed directly to a secure Ministry of Defense facility for comprehensive forensic analysis. This prevents any attempt by associates of the suspect to recover hidden documents, digital devices, or residual physical evidence left inside the passenger cabin. Tension hung heavy in the wet air as Tom Parker Bowles took a step back toward the shelter of the security lodge, his hands shoved deep into the pockets of his dark coat. He asked William if the family court had been notified of the impoundment order yet. William did not answer him verbally. Instead, he reached into his overcoat pocket, pulled out a thick leather folio containing the newly ratified Royal Governance Charters, and tapped the front cover twice against his leg. He told Tom that family courts held no jurisdiction over Crown estate crimes, and that all matters of stolen state property were now handled exclusively by the Sovereign's Independent Oversight Board. The facts were that ancient Crown exemption laws protect historical collections from standard civil litigation or family asset divisions during domestic disputes. Any attempt to claim royal artifacts as private personal property is legally void under the Sovereign Grant Act and parliamentary heritage statutes enacted centuries ago. The mystery was why the legal counsel representing Camilla's household staff had repeatedly advised their clients that historical silver holdings could be legally transferred into private trusts. The mystery resolved when an investigator pulled a confidential legal memo from a briefcase and handed it to William. The memo revealed that the legal counsel had deliberately misquoted 19th century property statutes in formal advisory letters sent to household administrators, creating a false legal loophole to justify the removal of museum-grade artifacts from palace storage rooms. The facts were that the falsified legal opinions were drafted by a boutique commercial law firm in central London that received substantial retainer fees from the same offshore shell companies handling the stolen artifact sales. The discovery exposed a coordinated conspiracy involving corrupt legal professionals who weaponized obscure statutes to launder the theft of national treasures. A new mystery opened as William scanned the list of partner names at the London law firm printed on the memo's letterhead. Which prominent peer of the realm retained the law firm to draft the fraudulent property opinions? And what role did they play in shielding the initial inventory losses from parliamentary scrutiny? William closed the leather folio with a sharp snap and handed it back to his protection officer. The confrontation at the gate was over, but the broader investigation was accelerating faster than the conspirators had ever anticipated. Every document recovered and every vehicle impounded brought the monarchy closer to total institutional renewal. The shadow of corruption that had lingered over the estate for years was finally being cleared away in the cold light of unassailable truth. Tracing the transit manifest. A junior forensic investigator bent over the stainless steel examination table inside the mobile crime lab van. He held a pair of long metal tweezers in his right hand. He used the tips to flatten a crumpled sheet of thermal paper recovered from the glove box of the impounded Range Rover. The harsh overhead fluorescent light bounced off the glossy paper surface, illuminating faint blue ink lines and printed digital timestamps across the page. He pressed a small lead weight onto the top edge of the paper to keep it from curling back up on the metal table. The facts are that transit manifests and shipping receipts recovered from seized transport vehicles serve as primary forensic evidence in criminal asset recovery cases. When high-value property is moved across restricted estate boundaries, every logistical stop must be recorded on verified waybills to maintain an unbroken legal chain of custody. Investigators rely on these physical documents to trace the movement of stolen goods from initial extraction points to final commercial distribution channels. Tension filled the cramped workspace of the mobile lab as Prince William stepped through the rear doors of the van, ducking his head beneath the doorframe. He shook the rainwater from his dark overcoat and tossed his leather gloves onto a nearby bench. He walked up to the stainless steel table and looked down at the flattened thermal paper. He asked the investigator what specific locations were listed on the waybill route. The investigator pointed to the center of the page with his metal tweezers, indicating a printed address in rural Wiltshire. The facts were that the Wiltshire address belonged to a disused agricultural grain store leased 2 years prior by a shell company registered in the British Virgin Islands. Financial records showed that the lease payments were funded directly through an offshore bank account managed by Camilla's former private secretary. This connection linked the rural storage site directly to the broader artifact diversion conspiracy operating across multiple royal properties. The mystery was how the rural grain store managed to receive commercial freight shipments without registering on local county council commercial property tax rolls. The mystery resolved when a second investigator pulled a county planning document from a digital tablet and placed it on the table next to the thermal paper. The document showed that the property had been quietly reclassified as an exempt agricultural research annex under a special municipal waiver signed 3 years prior by a corrupt local council official. The facts are that municipal planning exemptions are occasionally granted to state-backed agricultural projects to protect sensitive government research operations from public inspection. In this instance, the exemption was exploited to shield an illegal warehousing facility, used exclusively for sorting and packing stolen royal antiquities before export. A new mystery opened as William tapped his finger against a handwritten note scrawled in the margin of the transit manifest. Which local transport contractor operated the fleet of unmarked delivery vans moving goods between the Wiltshire Grain Store and Heathrow Airport? And what was their exact corporate name? The investigator adjusted his glasses and leaned closer to the thermal paper, scanning the handwritten margin notes under the magnifying lamp. He replied that the logistics company was registered under the name Meridian Freight Solutions, operating out of a small commercial park near Swindon. William instructed his protection team to dispatch an immediate raid unit to secure the Meridian Freight Solutions headquarters before any digital records could be wiped from their local servers. The facts are that swift operational execution during asset recovery investigations prevents suspects from destroying critical computer databases and paper financial ledgers. When law enforcement teams move quickly against secondary logistics hubs, they frequently capture real-time shipping schedules and client communication records that expose the entire network of external collaborators. Tension mounted inside the mobile lab as the radio receiver on the back wall crackled to life with a static-filled dispatch from the Swindon reconnaissance team. The radio voice reported that unmarked police cruisers had surrounded the Meridian Freight Solutions warehouse on the industrial estate. The voice added that the front gates were locked and no activity was visible through the ground floor windows, suggesting the facility had been abruptly abandoned just minutes before the team arrived. The facts were that industrial facilities tied to international art trafficking networks are typically equipped with remote sensor systems linked to encrypted messaging apps used by administrative handlers. When law enforcement units intercept a primary transport vehicle like the Range Rover at Highgrove, an automated security alert is instantly transmitted to all secondary nodes across the logistics chain. The mystery was how the automated alert system managed to bypass local civilian internet service providers to transmit the warning signal without detection. The mystery resolved when an intelligence officer working with the Cyber Crimes Unit traced a hidden fiber optic cable running from the warehouse roof directly to a secure military communications tower located 2 miles away. The illicit hookup allowed the facility to transmit encrypted data packets over dedicated defense channels that were entirely invisible to standard police wiretaps. The facts are that unauthorized tapping into secure government communication infrastructure is a severe federal offense that carries mandatory prison sentences under national security statutes. The discovery proved that the artifact smuggling ring enjoyed high-level technical assistance from individuals with direct access to restricted state defense networks. A new mystery opened as the cyber specialist pulled up a diagnostic log showing the exact digital encryption key used to access the communication tower. Which military contractor employee generated the unauthorized access key, and what financial rewards were funneled into their offshore retirement accounts? William turned away from the examination table and reached for his mobile phone on the bench. He dialed a direct encrypted line to the Director of National Intelligence, ordering an immediate freeze on all active defense contractor accounts linked to the Swindon Communications Tower. The investigation had broken through the outer layers of family concealment and landed squarely inside the machinery of national infrastructure subversion. The rain outside the mobile lab began to taper off into a cold, misty drizzle that hung low over the Gloucestershire fields. Inside the van, the investigators continued their meticulous cataloging of the recovered transit documents, securing every piece of physical evidence in heat-sealed plastic pouches. The net was tightening rapidly around every participant in the conspiracy, leaving no safe havens for those who had traded the Crown's historic trust for illicit financial gain. The facts are that comprehensive investigations into state asset diversion require absolute coordination between royal protection units, parliamentary oversight committees, and national intelligence agencies. When corruption penetrates both household administration and commercial logistics networks, only a unified state response can dismantle the entire infrastructure of the theft operation. Tension eased slightly within the mobile unit as the final transit manifest was scanned, uploaded, and securely transmitted to the Central Parliamentary Archive in London. William walked back toward the rear doors, pausing for a moment to look out at the damp gravel courtyard where the impounded Range Rover sat locked beneath its steel wheel clamps. The road ahead was long, but the foundation of the conspiracy had been irreparably shattered. Locking down the extended network, 2 armed tactical officers in matte black helmets marched through the swinging glass doors of the Meridian Freight Solutions office park in Swindon. Their heavy boots struck the polished concrete floor in a sharp rhythmic cadence that bounced off the empty white walls. A single overhead light fixture buzzed softly above an abandoned reception desk, covered in a thin layer of dust. One officer scanned the empty lobby with a thermal imaging scope, while his partner moved toward the locked security turnstiles at the end of the hall. The facts are that rapid containment actions targeting secondary logistics hubs require synchronized tactical deployments to secure physical premises before digital servers can be remotely wiped. When shipping companies are implicated in state asset diversion schemes, law enforcement units must freeze all communications equipment instantly. This operational speed prevents external handlers from destroying digital audit trails, linking local transport networks to high-level administrative conspirators. Tension filled the quiet lobby as the officer kicked the side panel of the security turnstile, popping the electronic latch with a sharp metallic clatter. The metal arm swung open, granting immediate access to the main administrative office corridor. The officers moved down the hallway in a tactical diamond formation, checking each open doorway on their left and right. Desks inside the cubicles were piled high with blank shipping invoices, discarded coffee cups, and unplugged computer towers with their side panels removed. The facts were that the hurried removal of computer hard drives indicated that someone inside the facility had received an advanced warning signal just minutes before the police raid began. Meridian Freight Solutions served as the primary transit node for moving stolen royal antiquities out of Wiltshire toward international shipping ports on the southern coast. The mystery was how the office staff managed to receive the evacuation warning, while all local cellular networks inside the industrial park were jammed by the mobile forensic van parked outside. The mystery resolved when a tactical officer inspecting the server room discovered a small satellite uplink dish hidden inside an air ventilation duct on the ceiling. The dish was wired directly into an independent power supply, allowing data packets to bypass local cellular towers entirely and transmit emergency wipe commands directly to overseas servers. The facts were that satellite uplink hardware of that frequency is restricted to specialized defense contractors and cannot be purchased through standard commercial channels. Its presence inside a commercial freight warehouse confirmed that, active military-grade infrastructure was being used to protect the smuggling ring from law enforcement intervention. A new mystery opened as the officer retrieved a small SIM card from the base of the satellite transmitter and slipped it into an evidence bag, which overseas intelligence contact received the final data dump from the warehouse server, and what bank account in the Cayman Islands funded the equipment installation. The team leader secured the server room door with a heavy-duty padlock and radioed the perimeter units to tighten the blockade around the entire industrial park. Every exit road was blocked by armed police cruisers, ensuring that no lingering couriers could slip past the cordon. The operation to lock down the extended network was moving forward methodically, closing every loophole that the conspirators had relied on for years. Rain began to fall again outside, drumming a heavy, steady sheet of water against the corrugated metal siding of the warehouse roof. Inside the main office area, 3 forensic technicians in blue Tyvek suits moved from desk to desk, bagging loose paperwork and recovering discarded flash drives left behind in desk drawers. One technician lifted a desk calendar from beneath a pile of delivery slips and placed it under the beam of his handheld inspection light. The facts are that physical desk calendars and handwritten logbooks frequently contain critical scheduling details that digital backups fail to record. When suspects abandon an office in a rush, they often leave behind personal notebooks and daily planners containing the real names of clients, drivers, and financial backers. Investigators rely on these handwritten records to reconstruct the true hierarchy of the illicit organization. Tension mounted as the technician flipped open the desk calendar to the current month, revealing a page filled with handwritten initials and numerical codes corresponding to specific dates and cargo weights. He held the page steady under his inspection light, while his partner photographed every entry with a high-resolution digital camera. The initials carved into the margin matched the personal signature stamps used by senior administrative staff inside Camilla's private household office. The facts were that the direct documentary link between the Swindon Freight Company and the Royal Household Administrative Staff provided the final proof needed to secure widespread arrest warrants. The network was no longer an anonymous collection of shell companies and third-party contractors. It was a fully mapped conspiracy anchored directly within the inner sanctum of the monarchy. The mystery was why the calendar entries stopped abruptly 3 days prior to the Highgrove Gate interception, leaving a blank space for the current week's scheduled shipments. The mystery resolved when an investigator examining the back pages of the planner found a handwritten note instructing all drivers to suspend land transport routes and switch exclusively to encrypted digital communication channels. The abrupt halt in scheduled paper logging proved that the conspirators knew an internal audit was underway and were scrambling to cover their tracks. The facts were that shifting communication protocols mid-operation causes severe logistical confusion among lower-level operatives, often leading to mistakes like the unauthorized daylight transport run attempted by Tom Parker Bowles at Highgrove. That single operational failure cracked the entire conspiracy wide open. A new mystery opened as the technician pulled a folded business card from the back pocket of the desk calendar cover. Which high-ranking military official introduced the Meridian Freight Solutions Director to the Royal Household's Chief Logistics Coordinator? The lead tactical officer stepped out of the server room and gave a crisp nod to the waiting team, signaling that the primary evidence collection at the warehouse was complete. The extended network was completely locked down, its physical offices secured, and its digital infrastructure mapped down to the last server node. The cleanup of the monarchy's internal corruption was advancing with absolute precision, leaving the remaining conspirators nowhere left to hide. The dramatic interception of Tom Parker Bowles' vehicle at the Highgrove gates exposes the dangerous extent of internal asset diversion. By uncovering stolen royal heirlooms hidden inside the SUV, Prince William and the Security Command have dealt a crushing blow to the covert network operating within the family. As investigations widen and accountability takes center stage, the monarchy